All right, so this is the second video for solving equations that contain radical expressions. Remember, before we solve, we have to isolate the radical on one side by itself. So in this case, we will subtract 7. So we have the square root of 2x plus 1 equals x minus 7. So we are squaring a binomial again. So remember, that means x minus 7 times x minus 7. This doesn't work out correctly if you forget that and you don't end up with 3 terms here. So this will be x squared minus 14x plus 49. And then we're going to subtract to get our trinomial on one side by itself. So subtract the 2x and the 1. So that's x squared minus 16x plus 48. And then we will factor, factors of 48 that have a sum of negative 16. So that would be negative 4 times negative 12. All right. So x minus 4 times x minus 12. And then we set both factors equal to 0. And our possible solutions then are 4 and 12. So now we check back to the original equation. So 7 plus the square root of 2 times 4 plus 1 equals 4. So we're checking the 4. And that's the square root of 9. So we have 7 plus 3 equals 4, and you can see that that is false, right? That does not check. And then, whoops, might want to put a C in there. And then we're going to check the 12. So 7 plus the square root of 2 times 12 plus 1 equals 12. So 7 plus the square root of 25. So 7 plus 5 equals 12 is true. So my solution is x equals 12, right? We have to discard the 4 because it didn't check. That's, remember, called an extraneous solution. All right, so here's 2 more equations we're going to solve. Notice that they are 4th roots, and then the other one is a 3rd root. Once again, we have to isolate the video, so we're going to add 3 on both sides. And then we take it to the 4th power because my index is 4. All right, so that leaves us 2x minus 9 equals 3 to the 4th power is 81, and then solve for x. So we add 9 on both sides, and then divide by 2. And then go back to your original equation to check. I'm going to just try to squeeze that in down here. So the 4th root of 2 times 45 minus 9 minus 3 equals 0. So 90 minus 9 is 81. The 4th root of 81 minus 3 does equal 0, so that checks. My solution is 45. Now on this second equation, we have radicals on both sides, and that's okay since they're just radicals with nothing else. So we take both sides to the 3rd power. And then that takes care of the radicals, and then solve. This is linear, so we just solve for x. We're going to add x to both sides. Add 3 to both sides. Divide by negative 3. Our possible solution is 4. So we go back to the original equation and check. So negative 4 times 4 minus 3 equals the cube root of negative 4 minus 15. All right, so that is negative 16 minus 3, the cube root of negative 19 equals the cube root of negative 19, so it checks. We couldn't simplify those two, but that's okay. You can see that they are exactly the same. On the next one, we need to isolate the radical by adding 5 to both sides. And in this case, it's okay if the cube root is equal to a negative number, because it is an odd index, then that's okay. So we take both sides to the third power. And add 4 to both sides to solve. And our possible solution is negative 4. We'll go back and check that in the original equation. Oops, I made that kind of long. So the cube root of negative 8 minus 5 equals negative 7. And you can see that the cube root of negative 8 is negative 2, so it checks. And the solution stands because it checked in our original equation. Okay, so this is the last example for this lesson. On this one, I just know from experience that if we subtract the 4 and we add the radical to the other side, that makes it kind of nicer to work with. And then we didn't have to worry about squaring the negative square root of x minus 2. Sometimes students get mixed up on that. So if you can make it positive, I would do so. So we're going to take both sides to the second power. Remember, we're squaring a binomial, x minus 4 times x minus 4. So that's x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals x minus 2. Subtract the x and add the 2 so that we can set this equal to 0. And then we can factor to solve. So we're trying to find factors of 18 with a sum of negative 9. So negative 6 times negative 3, because negative 6 plus negative 3 does equal negative 9. So this factors x minus 3 times x minus 6. Set both of these equal to 0. So our possible solutions are 3 and 6. So we have to go back and check this in the original equation. Right, so let's check the 3. So that would be 3 minus the square root of 3 minus 2 equals 4. So 3 minus the square root of 1, which is 3 minus 1, right? So this does not check. All right, so that means that 3 is not a solution. We will check the 6. So 6 minus the square root of 4. So 6 minus 2 equals 4, and that does check. So my solution is x equals 6. All right. So one of the main things here is just be sure that you always check, because in this case the 3 was extraneous and the 6 is our only solution. All right, so that's it for this lesson.